Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you this evening to make the presentation. I am the independent facilitator for the PPN Secretariat Network, and what I'd propose to do would be that maybe to speak to two things. One is just some information about the Secretariat Network, about where we came from and what we do. And then secondly, as Catherine was saying, that we recently put in a 20-page submission to the structure review of PPNs, and maybe share some of the main conclusions and the outcomes which are contained in that particular submission that went into Mazars, who, as you know, are undertaking the review on behalf of the department. So in terms of the background to the Secretariat Network, it emerged from discussions which took place at the PPN National Conference in October 2018. And at that event, volunteer members of PPN secretariats around Ireland said that it would be very useful to set up a national network where members could come together. They could share good practice. They could discuss issues that might be of concern or interest to individual members of PPN secretariats as well. So that went through that particular meeting. And then between, I suppose, October 2018, June 2019, some preparatory work took place in relation to the Secretariat Network. Part of that, after a competitive tendering process, involved appointing me as the independent facilitator. For about the last 30 years, I've been a freelance researcher consultant, generally within the community and the voluntary sector. So I suppose at any one time I had 4 or 5 different bits of work on, and over the last couple of years, one of those bits of work has been with the Secretariat Network. So that appointment was made, and that led then to the first meeting of the Secretariat Network being convened in June 2019, so just over 2 years ago. The Secretariat Network has been in existence. The first meeting took place in the department's offices in Trinity Point in June 2019. So just very briefly, in terms of of what's been happening the last couple of years. Sorry, just switch the phone here. That initially just in terms of the membership, the membership at its maximum of the Secretariat Network would comprise 31 members. There's one from each PPN in Ireland. At present, we have 30 members. We're still awaiting a nomination from Monaghan PPN. Initially, we met on a 3-monthly basis for the first year in operation. Over the last year or so, we've been meeting every 2 months. We would have an average attendance of around 24 over the period of, particularly over the last year or so. Interestingly enough, that the turnout has been better during the COVID pandemic than it was beforehand. And I just think that for many people, doing things online by Zoom or by Teams is more accessible than making a journey up to Dublin or somewhere else and spending a lot of time in the car and traveling to and from places like West Cork and Donegal. And I think the sense I would have that in terms of going forward for national networks like the PPN network, that even when COVID passes and when the restrictions are lifted, I still have a strong sense that we'll be doing a lot of our business by Zooms in terms of the experience of the last period of time, that it has worked quite well. You know, the informal networking, not so much, but I think there's probably a consensus that we should have some type of blended approach in-person meetings, and then as well that we'd have the Zoom type meetings. As the independent facilitator, I would convene the meetings, facilitate the meetings, deal with issues relating to the network in between the 2 monthly meetings. And I suppose 2 of our main tasks over the last couple of years have been that we made a major contribution towards the user handbook. We actually did a total revision. We were unhappy with the initial draft. We thought it wasn't a great bit of work. So rather than just making minor changes, we basically rewrote the user handbook. And we were glad to see that around 80–85% of our changes made their way into the final user handbook that was launched. In the last few months, we've been spending a good bit of time. I think we would see the structure review has been a very, very, very significant task. There's some skepticism within the members about whether it is a serious bit of work, whether our contributions are going to make an impact. But I suppose, being an optimist, I think we need to see whether that's going to be backed up or not when Mazars produce their final report, and what recommendations are taken on board by the department in terms of future operations of the PPNs. We would think that if our recommendations are taken on board, it could make a very positive and significant difference to the way the PPNs are operated around the country. In terms of just other contributions that about the operations of the network, after the initial one-year contract for myself as the independent facilitator, I was then reappointed for another year. My contract essentially involves 24 days work a year, so it works out by 2 days a month on behalf of the Secretariat Network. And although my fees are paid directly by the department, I think it's only fair to recognise the fact that the department have never tried to interfere in the workings of the Secretariat Network. Nor have they ever tried to apply any pressure on me whatsoever in terms of bringing to the network things that they would like to see done and issues that they would like to see raised. So I think that they played it with a very straight bat, and they've recognised the independence of the Secretariat Network, and by extension, the fact that I report directly to the network and not to the department. We have a 5-person steering group as well, comprised of members of the Secretariat Network that meet in the months in between the full plenary meetings of the network. They would support me in my work. They're a sounding board for me, and they're a mechanism for reviewing the work of the PPN and then for planning ahead as well. Our meetings usually last for about 2 hours. In the first hour, we're joined by officials from the department, who generally make a 20-minute presentation and then take some questions and comments from the members of the Secretariat Network. I think that the members of the network would find that this is a very, very, very valuable bit of the meeting, that they receive very clear and direct information about things like the funding, communication strategy, the blended training programs, structure reviews, new initiatives and plans, productions of annual reports. And they in a large number of cases, the routes for information getting through to the Secretariat Network would work or the secretariats within PPNs would work quite well, in that they get the information either from the host organisation, or they get the information from the resource workers and support workers. But I think it's clear that maybe in some cases that actually doesn't work, and at some of the meetings, the Secretariat Network members would be saying after the departmental people left that was very useful, because they hadn't heard that bit of information before. So I think it's very good that the department do turn up, generally 2 or 3 representatives of the department, and then maybe a few days after, or a week maybe after doing the verbal report, they send in a written report to me, myself, and I then circulated that, generally maybe a 2-3 page document, which should give an updates on various parts of the PPNs and any breaking news or new news that might be of interest to the Secretariat Network members. And then the second half of the meeting, we generally meet between 7 and 9, a bit like this evening's meeting. That I know it's till by 8 o'clock this evening. But the second half would then be for the members only. We'd work through issues that have been raised, concerns that have been raised about things that are happening in different parts of Ireland in relation to PPNs. There'd be a lot of peer support at those meetings as well, where maybe some of the more experienced practitioners would be giving advice and guidance to some of the ones who might have just joined their particular secretariats. We would have spent a lot of time in the last couple of years talking about the user handbook, and then more recently the structure review. We've also done proposals. We've done proposals for a laptop loan scheme for PPN representatives who might have problems accessing devices and equipment for Zoom meetings and other remote meetings, to be provided with laptops. And we've also put in a proposal for an attendance allowance scheme for PPN reps attending local authority meetings like SPC meetings and LCDCs and other meetings as well. So we spent a bit of time working up those proposals. So I think that since its initiation in June 2019, it's been a useful and productive period of time. I think as reflected in the good turnout, generally 80% attendance at the meetings of the plenary meetings of the Secretariat Network. I think we have made significant contributions to the user handbook and to the structure review. And I guess what's happened in submission to the structure review, that's brought together a number of issues which have been recurring on a fairly regular basis. There's a pattern there of things that maybe aren't going so well within individual PPMs. And we've come up with suggestions and ideas about how they might be improved into the future. We're very happy to receive the comprehensive update from the department, who would give at least an hour at the 2 monthly meetings, and then they take comments and questions as well after their particular presentation. And I think there's been a lot of informal networking between plenary meetings as well, between members of the Secretariat Network about particular issues that they might need a bit of advice and guidance about.